Hey you guys, so I'm finally doing this video and it's gonna be based on shadow work. Oh my gosh. Okay, so first of all, I'm Queen Lev. I should have started off as that as first, but I'm Queen Lev and I'm here to talk about a thing called shadow work. Something that within spirituality, if you don't go through this, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't amount to much. Shadow work is different for everybody. Everyone goes through different stages of shadow work. And it's not just a one-time thing. This thing is a cycle, like healing. It's healing. It's healing. Healing isn't linear. Never have, never will be. Once you think you've healed over something, the shit comes back up because there's something that you miss within that that you haven't touched, that you need to heal from. There's a lot of repressed emotions within us that we carry from childhood, from past lifetimes, that we bring here. And as we grow older, we realize the different things that we need to heal when we start having, different friendships, relationships, in general with anybody. But my journey with shadow work has been a couple of years from now. And the great thing about relationships is that, and when you realize what shadow work is and the work that you have to do to cultivate yourself and evolve and ascend to a higher state of your being, is your dealings with other people, how you respond to things, how you react to certain things, how you view certain things, and how you change those things based off of the past ways you used to handle them. Shadow work is it's like a job. You have to really put in the work. It ain't like spirituality is not fun and games. Like, people love to look at the light side and stay there, and then just stay there. And like, you don't grow when you just stay at a certain point. You have to go through things, get yourself in certain situations in order to evolve and to grow and to learn from them. Experiences are ultimately the best teachers. So the best way to do that is exploring different things within different people, relationships, friendships, even family and stuff like that. Breaking cycles and healing past generational traumas and healing from things that they haven't healed from. You want to break the cycle, because a lot of our traumas and a lot of our things that we still handle and deal with come from not just what we've experienced through childhood, but what our parents experienced, what our parents experienced, and so on and so forth. Everybody has problems, and in order to understand somebody, you really have to understand, in order to accept you and to understand you, you have to go through that whole thing of, okay, so why do I act like this? What is causing this? So on and so forth, different things like that. So I wrote down some stuff to help guide me, help you, or whatever. And I said, the truth without the pain. Within the pain. The truth within the pain. Shadow work is painful because you're facing yourself. It's not you telling somebody how they made you feel. It's the hardest thing to do, is face yourself and really look in the mirror and be like, you have issues and you need to learn from them, and you also need to love yourself. That can be the most painful thing, because looking at yourself and seeing what you do wrong and all that, it can be scary, because it's like you think that you're not the problem, but in a lot of our situations, we fail to realize our toxic traits and the different things that we do that can hinder certain situations, because we feel as if we're perfect, and it's always that person, failing to realize we have to look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you see your reflection, and it's just basically your shadow, your other self, who you truly are within yourself. Like, you have to reflect. So shadow work is different for everyone. For me, I started off journaling. I was looking at spiritual videos, learning more about where I come from, who I am, and stuff like that. I was learning about spirituality and the different ways that I can go within myself to figure myself out. I started doing tarot readings, listening to tarot readings, getting my astrology chart, learn about numerology and the numbers behind my name, different things like that, to discover more of who I am first. And then when I started my shadow work, I had a notebook. And the first thing I did was write down everything that I've suppressed within myself that I've never truly talked about. So when I did that, I did it one by one, and I took my time, because you want to make sure you really address it, feel it, accept it, see the different ways that you can grow from that, and ultimately let it go. Take it for what it was. Don't feel no shame behind it. It had to happen. It happened for a reason. And you have to evolve from that, even though things, some things can be painful. In order for you not to stay in a certain position in life, you have to learn from that, and you have to grow from it. You know what I mean? When spirit is calling you to your altar, it's time to go to church. Shadow work is, like I said, it's scary. That shadow work. Okay, so let's get to the basics. Shadow work, your shadow self is the self that you hide from. It's the true you. I consider it the true you, because you hold all those suppressed feelings, all those things you're trying to hide. You hide those in the shadows. That's why they call it the shadow self, because you hide all that pain, that dark side of who you are. You hide that in the shadows. So when you bring that up and bring more light into it, you start to discover not only who you are, but what you come from, how certain situations brought you to be to where you are today, and also those sides of you that you're shameful of, like you're too this, you're too that. It's like, that's who you truly are, though. And going through your shadow work will help you express who you are better, and just openly and freely be who you are, instead of suppressing that as well. You're not just suppressing traumas and stuff, but you're ultimately suppressing your true self, your higher self. So in order to really reach your higher self and ascend, you have to do shadow work. You have to go through all those dark tunnels, all those funnels. You gotta go through the dark in order to reach the light. Sometimes you may get lost, but always follow that light within you that's leading you towards that path of ascension. Spirituality is about freedom. Freedom is that light. You follow that light, but through that light, you have to go through that darkness, and that's what it is. Yeah, and then the darkness, like the chakras, is very equates well when it comes to shadow work, because your root chakra is your security. Your sacral chakra is like your sexual creativity side. Your solar plexus is inner power and personal power. Your heart chakra is the center of who you are. So when you hit your heart chakra is basically the seat of your soul. It's like where your inner child sits within your heart, because that's where the breaking happens, within your heart. You get heartbroken so many times when you were a child. Things happen what you think is about to go down within your heart. That's where you sit. You hold all that shit in. You get hurt. You hold it in, create blockages. And that's another reason why within shadow work and stuff like that, in order to reach past through the gateway of the heart chakra, when you finally heal that heart chakra, that heal your soul, like heal that hole in your soul, is when you can travel through the gateway to the other chakras, the third eye chakra and the crown chakra, so you can really cultivate and really be who you are without any blockages and without any, all that extra stuff that you healed from and that you gravitated from, all that negativity and all those dark forces that are trying to hold you down into a space where it's like, so in a survival, basically their survival mode state, stuck in the root chakra. You don't want to be stuck in the root chakra. You're not going to go nowhere when you're stuck in the root chakra and you're underactivated. That's the worst. Or overactivated. You're not able to really reach and pull higher because you're too stuck in one energy wheel. You want to evolve and you want to cultivate and heal your energy wheels as you evolve into your state of being. So going back in time to that place of pain, you literally want to channel yourself as if you're a child again. And picture yourself in that place, what happened, feel it, remember it, look at it. And then, I would say you want to feel it, but then in the same time, you don't want to get too attached again. Because the idea is to let it go and to grow and evolve from that and learn your lessons within that situation. So what I've done, I went back and I would reflect, I would reminisce, I would state how it would make me feel. I would look at the situation, why did that happen? And then I would be like, okay, so this happened, this made me feel this way, and this is why I do this. Okay, so you do this because of that. Okay, so what are ways that you can cultivate from doing that because of that? Like, what can break that cycle? What are ways you can break the cycle from not doing that anymore? And, there are self-love rituals and different things that you can do to help guide you through that tunnel. But that's the first step to me, is writing everything down, how you feel, different ways that you can grow from that and cultivate from that within time. So if certain situations pop back up where those feelings usually come into play, you can stop, think, what's the best way to handle it this time? Not that way, not this way, but let me try to interject this way so I can learn from that lesson and not have to continue to evolve this reoccurring situation that is causing you to stay in the same place. You don't want to stay in the same place. And you don't want to continue to feel the same feelings. So as much as that needs to pop up, it will. As much as that needs to pop up, it will. It will not go away until you fully and completely have healed from it. But also give yourself brownie points, because a lot of the times we feel as if we take 10 steps forward and 15 steps back. But when in reality, spirit is just like, one, sometimes it could be taking you through the same cycle to see if you've grown from it. And two, it's something else you need to learn from that and heal more from that, because a lot of the time certain situations are so deep that it takes longer to heal from. And then even if you have learned the lesson, you have this sense of guilt. So you stay, it's like in a sense where you stay stuck in that guilt, but you have to remember, like, and that's the whole process too. It's like, when you're learning how to do different things in a different way, like for instance, if you're a person that overgives and overshares, and then you're learning, like, in order for people to not use me and different things like that, I have to learn to create boundaries. So when you start creating boundaries, that's when you feel that guilt, because it's like, damn, like that person really needs it. But then it's like, okay, so what about your cup? You're emptying your cup to fill somebody else's. Meanwhile, if they were to come back for some shit, not only can they not get something from you, but you don't have enough for yourself. So then it's like, okay, so what do you do? So now you're empty. And then that person is on to the next because you're empty. And they got so used to you taking care of them that now that you can't, they're like, what's the use of you? It was only, so you have to teach people how to treat you in that same way. And you're also teaching yourself how to treat yourself and how to really care and love for yourself. Self-evaluation, self-assessment, redirection, all that stuff is very important, because when you do the shadow work, self-assessment and self-evaluation are top two things that you're going to do when you're doing shadow work, because you always have to be looking at, okay, so what can I do to better that situation, and what can I do to grow and evolve past this certain thing and not be a victim, anymore, or whatever. Revisiting, feeling it, dealing with it, addressing it, the situation, making peace with the situation is the most important thing. Making peace, not feeling no guilt, and embracing what that pain created. Embrace what the pain created and forgive yourself from it. Tend to your triggers accepting that part of you that you suppress. So tend to your triggers. Whenever you feel triggers, pay attention to them. Pay attention to them. And don't suppress them. Don't suppress them, but pay attention to them. Highlight them. Explore them. See where they could be coming from, what could be causing them. And, talk to yourself about it. Talk to yourself about it. Okay, so why is this triggering me? What's causing me to be triggered by this? Why am I being defensive? I'm being defensive because when I was a child, I never stood up for myself, So now that I get older, I feel like I have to always, bulldoze. Okay, so that happened as a child. I was 5 when that happened. I was a child. I didn't know better. But now that I'm older, okay, so what could I do to not be defensive but get my point across and, assert myself? You express yourself. You communicate properly. This is how I'm feeling. I don't like this. And I feel like this is the way that, we could express, or the situation can turn out to be better. You speak. You communicate. You comprehend. You talk. Because as children, we don't. A lot of times we just take things because we're taught to shut up. So we carry that within our adulthood to where we don't know how to talk to people. Trust me, I be having that issue too. So I'm still learning. We got to get uncomfortable when it comes to doing things like this because we're so locked in and not hurting other people's feelings. Meanwhile, what about you? What about your feelings? What about what you want? That's more important than anything. You can't care so much more about another person and how they can handle or take something than what's going on with you, because then you're the one that's fucked up. You're the one that's still cycling this whole situation and not only that, losing an ounce of respect, because it's like, why? And I just explained this, but it's like, if you don't want to do something, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. And regardless of how the other person feels, you should be okay with that, because the only thing that matters is how you feel. And that's when you connect. When you connect with yourself, you are in tune with yourself, that you take yourself more into account than anybody else. That's where that self-love and self-care comes from. When you really tend to yourself and you put yourself first, that's when you start to do that. And you realize that your needs, your wants, what you feel is more important than anybody else. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to be your savior but you. And you learn that quick. But our relationships with our parents are a reflection of how we handle personal relationships and friendships. Those are the first relationships that we have are with our parents. So whatever we see, a lot of times we either look at it, we don't want to be like that, but because we putting that energy out there, we become that, because that's all we see, and then 2, that's all we know, and then 3, what you don't want, when you speak in that's what you tend to start to attract, and you slowly become. And that, which is so weird, because it'd be like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like, and then you eventually become what you don't want to be. That's why you always have to look at what you do want, what you do want to be, and you speak life into that. Because what you speak life into is what you put out there, is your magic. Your mouth is magical. So whatever you say is 9 times out of 10 is going to come true, and it's going to be what it is. So healing from your wounds, that's the most important part. One thing I love about Janet Jackson, I love her album Velvet Rope, because I felt like that album was about self-acceptance. And the whole Velvet Rope had the whole trope of, I have to be like this in order to be let into this all-exclusive club. And if I'm not like this, then I won't be accepted in. And it's just like, okay, so what is your definition of that? For yourself. Because at the end of the day, being so consumed with society and what society wants, that ends up shaping your future more than what you want to shape your future as. But like I said, healing isn't linear. It's not a straight path. It takes time, it takes work. Another great thing I do, I have a playlist called Shadow Work, and I put songs about love and everything that I would want, like say a relationship or whatever. And you got like a song playlist for like your man. Make a playlist for you and listen to it. You know, one of the ways where you could practice self-love and self-care is also doing that. Go into your room in a dark room, lay down, light you some candles, really listen to those songs, hold your heart, talk to yourself. You know, that's a great way to do that too. Journaling is one of the best ways, I tell you that. And also utilizing your tools, whatever you learn and the new ways that, the new behaviors, you know, put that out there. Practice that. Set boundaries. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. When you learn self-care and self-love, that's when you really start to, in self-assessment and evaluation, that's when you start to set those boundaries and create basically a new world for yourself, because you're breaking away from an old, outdated cycle that needs to be rejuvenated and renewed. So you're creating a new shift, which is amazing, because one thing you don't want to do is to get caught up in something and the shit get old and you get left behind and shit, because not even just within the world but within yourself, and now you're depressed and shit, because it's like you really create your reality. But within spirituality, shadow work is number one. That's one thing that you cannot miss. Like, you can't have the light within the dark, you know, and there's also light within the dark and dark within the light. That's what the yin and yang represents. You know, in order for you to reach true light, you have to go through the darkness and you have to see the bad along with the good. That's like going to heaven, you be in heaven and there's nothing going on. And you just like, this is all that it is. It's just perfect. You know, in order to learn lessons, in order to have experiences, you have to go through things, and you have to really face yourself. You have to really talk to yourself and to your demons, and it can be hard, but it's needed. You know, a lot of people I know, they tell me all the time, you know, it's scary, but if you want to evolve and you want to grow and you don't want to continue to be caught up in the same situations, you're gonna do it. Spirit is going to make you do it. You know, your demons will jump at you, shout at you, scream at you, be in your face. You're gonna see them in the corner of the room. Like that movie, The Babadook, is the perfect example of shadow work. Like, she had all this guilt and stuff, and I wrote something about it. I wish I could find it. Oh my God.